What exactly is a soul-sucking experience? This is a weird thing that it's the only real way that I feel like I can imagine it, which is something that I've experienced a couple times in my life. If you imagine something like a Dementor from Harry Potter or whatever, and it's literally sucking the life out of you, the life essence, that essentially is what this feels like, but obviously there's no supernatural beings. It just feels like your external surroundings are just draining all the joy out of your life. And I highly recommend avoiding these experiences. It feels a bit similar to boredom, but boredom can be a good thing if you're in the comfort of your own home. If I'm bored in my house, then that feels fine because I can think about things. But if I'm bored in the middle of, not the middle of nowhere, countryside, that's cool and stuff. But if I'm bored in the middle of a city, that will feel soul-sucking because I can't mindfully focus on thinking of things to do, etc., thinking of ways I can improve, progress and anything. You've got loud noise around you, you've got cars, you've got people, so it just feels a bit like dull and numb, and you try to block everything out, but it just doesn't work. And when you block everything out, it just feels you're using up all your energy to block everything out. It just feels so soul-sucking and life-draining. It's very hard to describe. Sometimes if I'm ever commuting on a bus to college or back from college, especially if it's dark, can feel a bit soul-sucking sometimes, because sometimes I'm with friends, which is great, I can talk to them and that's just fun, that's nice and sociable. But sometimes if I'm on my own, can feel very, very odd and peculiar and soul-sucking, like I'm just not in the right place. I can't exactly focus on anything, I can't meditate, I'm not in that peaceful environment that I personally like. And if you wanted to meditate, you probably wouldn't want to be in a loud environment either. That just seems like something that would be quite a logical choice. But I'd remember there'd be times, if I was at a part-time job or something, there would just be nothing to do. And because I can't go home, because there's sometimes people in the shop, etc., and yeah, you're doing the till, but that's a bit boring as well, to be honest. You can't just like go home because there's no one there. You're stuck for the shift. It just feels weird because you can't get on with things like meditation because you're in a different environment to the comfort of your own home. It's like being bored away from the comfort of your own home. That's the only real way I can seem to describe it. It doesn't exactly happen inside of like a school or whatever. It wouldn't happen if I was inside of a job that actually, well, I was doing a lot of things, because you're not bored, you're doing something, you're doing a lot of things, and that's good. You're working your mind in some way, shape or form. But when you're just doing nothing and you're away from the comfort of your own home, so you can't really relax, your soul doesn't feel like it can relax. It just, the life essence just gets sucked out of it. And I hate it when this happens because it feels really awful. And it's one of the, I used to never really have this feeling, to be honest. I mean, I've only really known about self-improvement for at least the time of recording for around a year now, but I started doing good habits like journaling and going to the gym around like summer 2022, July, so around a year and a half now. But only since a year have I known about generic self-improvement, and has that been when my life has really started to exponentially increase. It's only been recently, the last 3 months or so, where I've started to experience these weird sort of experiences where it just feels like there's no joy. It just feels like there's so much negative, sad energy just going around you, and you just can't exactly fight it off in a way. You just sort of succumb to it. And yeah, it's not a nice experience. I don't like it when this happens. If I'm with friends, then there's positivity, then there's joy, then there's just laughing and giggling and just being idiots and having fun. There's that. If you're doing that on the bus, that's fun. If you're doing that in a random place, city centre somewhere where there's people, it's loud, you can't relax or anything, but you've got your friends. If you're on your own, that feels horrible because you're bored, you have nothing to do. But like, you have no choice but to sort of live with it until you can go home or whatever. You have definitely experienced this at least once in your life where you just feel like all the joy is getting sucked out of you. I reckon it's basically like the opposite of being in a flow state. If you don't know what a flow state is when your mind, you have no thoughts in your mind, literally no thoughts. You're just consistently just doing work, you are doing something, you're doing things. You're not necessarily stressed, but you're getting on with things. You're getting on with deep work, essentially. A lot of the time I get that while recording or editing and stuff. But if I'm at a part-time job and I'm only really sporadically doing things, there's not much to do, you're not in a flow state. You're left with your own thoughts, and you can't really just meditate or analyze these thoughts because you're not in the comfort of your own home. You're not in that sort of peaceful environment in a weird sort of way. I think that you can sort of understand where I'm coming from by this. Is where you're bored, you're not in a flow state, but you're also not in the comfort of your own home, so you can't analyze the thoughts that come to you while you're bored. And that's a very useful thing to do when you are in your own home, but it's not if you're not able to do that, and you just kind of have to live with that constant negative energy that's just, yeah. I feel like a lot of people who commute to places like university or a job and stuff would experience this. I mean, I know I sometimes get it on the bus. If I'm with friends, then it feels fine, but I know a lot of people may be on their own every single day, every morning, every evening. That must feel, they must have at least experienced this weird feeling of just the life being drained out of you just at least once. I mean, sometimes you can be such a happy person that this never really happens to you, but I was a happy person in summer, and this still happened to me a couple times during like the course of since September, essentially. So yeah, I just recommend avoiding these at all costs, because it just doesn't work with humans. Having a soul is like an essential part of being a human being in a way, and not having a soul, because it's literally been, the life of it has been sucked out of you. You just feel like you're subhuman. Sometimes this can happen if you've had like a bad meal or something, you've had a bad diet, so you feel like lethargic, you feel like you like your bad posture, your mouth breathing, but it's like you don't really feel like you're doing anything about it because you feel like you're out of your own control. Odd experience, and I feel like, even if I've not described it very well, I feel like you'll know what I mean. Just avoid that if you can. I'm not gonna be able to stop taking the bus home. I can't walk home because that will take blooming hours. So I have to, but if I can go with friends, then I will. If I can read, I will. If I can't like meditate or anything because it's a louder environment. But you know what I'm sort of trying to say. Try to do something while you're in those moments of places where you're susceptible to feeling that way. But with that, I recommend subscribing, because I love this community of young tribal people who are willing to improve themselves so much more than they already have. And good luck.